Pittsburgh's Three Rivers Stadium has never been a friendly place for visiting football teams, a fact of which the Kansas City Chiefs are all too aware. On this first Sunday of the 1981 regular season, the Chiefs have drawn a tough assignment, the Steelers. And Kansas City coach Marv Levy is quite familiar with his foe. Last year, Levy guided the Chiefs to an 8-8 record, their best mark in 7 seasons. Against Pittsburgh, the record is not so good. The Steelers have beaten the Chiefs 7 straight times, and if Levy's team is to end that string today, they'll need solid performances from people like All-Pro defensive end Art Still. Kansas City will also have to show more offense than they did in the just concluded preseason. They averaged only 8 points a game. Quarterback Bill Kenny, a replacement for injured starter Steve Fuller, will be the man who will try to pierce the steel curtain. Kenny may not be that well known outside the Missouri borders, but his quarterback counterpart on Pittsburgh is a household name. Lucky for the Steelers, not too many households watched Terry Bradshaw's TV comedy show last spring. So number 12 is back for another NFL campaign. This is not the case for Steeler linebacking great Jack Ham, currently out with an injury. Last year, injuries and retirements drastically changed the face of the Steeler franchise. Pittsburgh is a team in transition, hoping to bounce back after a subpar season in 1980. What better way to do it than to start off on the right foot against Kansas City? From Three Rivers Stadium, it's opening day action. The Chiefs against the Steelers on the NFL Game of the Week. The very first play of the game was an omen of things to come. Steeler returner Larry Anderson misplayed the ball. While causing no immediate harm, fumbles would plague Pittsburgh later on. For the moment, it was the Steeler defense that caused trouble, as the Chiefs were halted in their first 2 possessions. The game's first break occurred when number 51, linebacker Lauren Taves, stripped the Chiefs of the football. Right there to take advantage was the ever-present Jack Lambert, number 58. But the Chiefs have linebackers who can do the job as well. And soon after, number 52, Thomas Howard, made the first big play in what would become one of the most memorable games of his career. Pittsburgh receiver John Stallworth thought he caught a deflected touchdown, but the pass was ruled incomplete. However, the Steelers didn't have to wait long for a real celebration. On the very next play, Pittsburgh scored. Number 88, Lynn Swan, elicited the appropriate response from the hometown crowd that has come to recognize this graceful athlete as perhaps the finest receiver in team history. His skill and superb Steeler pass blocking were the ingredients to Pittsburgh's first points of the 1981 season. But a missed point after kept the score 6-0. The fluid Swan now gave way to his bulkier teammates on defense. Last year, the Steeler defenders, by their own admission, had an off year. They were eager to set things straight in the new season, as the Chiefs soon found out. Late in the first quarter, the men in black were looking like the Steelers of old. Hard-hitting, swarming, and stifling. But all that quickly changed with one flick of the wrist by Kansas City quarterback Bill Kenny. 6-year veteran receiver Henry Marshall, number 89, was the beneficiary of blown coverage in the Steelers secondary. A second look shows Marshall streaking untended by safety J.T. Thomas, number 24, who should have gotten support from the corner. None was there, however, and the result was Marshall's touchdown. Chiefs 7, Steelers 6. Pittsburgh had now committed 2 very uncharacteristic and costly mistakes. It was time to return to Steelers' strengths, and that includes throwing the football. Quarterback Terry Bradshaw and receiver John Stallworth, number 82, did not disappoint. But 2 plays later, the Steelers made another mistake. This time it was a Sidney Thornton fumble, which Kansas City linebacker Charles Jackson, number 51, transformed into a damaging turnover. Pittsburgh's Jekyll Hyde act was driving the fans crazy, but the Chiefs minded it not one bit. However, Kansas City showed they weren't entirely immune to error themselves when rookie runner Joe Delaney, number 37, took his eye off the ball for 1 costly second. Kansas City settled for a field goal to lead 10-6, and as the second period began, the Chief defenders were determined to hold on to that lead. The Chiefs checked Pittsburgh, but weren't much more successful themselves. When Jack Lambert sacked Kenny for a 12-yard loss, it inspired the Steelers for a short but effective scoring drive. If Pittsburgh is going to return to its accustomed status in 1981, they'll need strong performances from veterans like Lambert and 10-year pro Franco Harris, number 32. Both responded in the second period, with Harris capping the Steeler march with a scoring sweep around right end. Incredibly, the extra point was missed for a second time, so Pittsburgh led 12-10. But the Chiefs handed the Steelers another opportunity on the next series when Kenny threw a pass directly into the waiting arms of Pittsburgh deep back Dwayne Woodruff, number 49. Bradshaw went to the air right away after the turnover, but the usually reliable Swan missed a catch that would normally have been his for the asking. Despite the temporary setback, the Steelers got closer on a pass interference penalty. Then Franco Harris got the call again. Harris's score and a successful conversion put Pittsburgh ahead 19-10. And yet still the Steelers were a little surly towards their opponents. Order was soon restored, and the Chiefs took over with a minute to play in the half. Kenny then put on an impressive passing show that moved Kansas City into field goal range. With just 6 seconds to go, kicker Nick Lowry drilled a 40-yarder to make the halftime score 19-13. The Chiefs had not played a perfect half by any means, but they were still very much in the game. For the Steelers, it had been an unsettling 30 minutes. They owned the lead, but had also committed some very un-Steeler-like miscues. In the second half, mistakes would continue to plague Pittsburgh, errors that would make them their own worst enemy. Ultimately, these mistakes would lead to a stunning and shocking conclusion. The mere presence of the steel curtain defense used to turn the knees of opponents into jelly. Indeed, it was the punishing force behind 4 world championships in the 70s. In the 80s, Pittsburgh's all-pros have become old pros, and younger teams like the Chiefs no longer fear the aging dynasty. Bill Kenny and J.T. Smith exploited a crack in the steel curtain, and then Kenny found not a crack, but a gaping hole. Second-year man Carlos Carson, number 88, bolted 53 yards for the score. In the days of old, he would have been planted had he luckily gotten open. But the Steelers secondary was the 3rd worst in the AFC last season and is a year older this season. As well, Pittsburgh's pass rush was the NFL's worst last year. And another look reveals that number 47, Mel Blount, was sent on a blitz to help provide some pressure up front. But he got to Kenny a split second too late. The result, receivers now run free where they once feared to tread. Carson's touchdown gave Kansas City the lead and showed that even a team that ranked last in the AFC last season in total offense is capable of moving the football against the tattered steel curtain. When it comes to moving the football, Pittsburgh can keep pace with anyone. After all, when you have a quarterback like Terry Bradshaw, who has won a pair of Super Bowl MVP trophies, and an all-pro receiver like John Stallworth, there hasn't been a defense invented that can stop men of such ability. Sometimes the only means of defensing such a refined passing attack is to prematurely jar the receiver prior to his grasping the ball. There's only one problem. Referees call that pass interference. A pair of such violations, one called on All-Pro Gary Barbaro, number 26, set up a Steeler touchdown. Number 27, Greg Hawthorne, scored from a yard out, and a repeat shows that the block of number 77 guard Steve Corson made it all possible. Corson's block and Hawthorne's desire gave the Steelers the lead, an advantage that had changed hands for the 4th time in the game. Vince Lombardi once said that defense is the way to win football games. Kansas City's young stars would have made him proud, and Pittsburgh's mighty legends would have made him envious. Lombardi would have loved the remainder of this 3rd quarter, for it was dominated by the 2 defenses. The Steeler pass rush, though virtually non-existent last season, smothered Bill Kenny. Dwight White is gone. Green and Greenwood are in their twilight years, with players like Bob Coors and number 76, John Banaszak, hope to carry on the tradition. But on this Sunday, everything that the Steeler defense could do, the aggressive Chiefs matched, sack for sack, interception for interception. Like Pittsburgh, the Chiefs have built their blossoming defensive unit by using the draft and free agents. Players like quarterback Eric Harris, number 44, are proof that they're building solidly, well enough to unnerve Pittsburgh into their 3rd turnover of the game. The Steelers' backfield folly gave the Chiefs a first down at the Pittsburgh 23, and Kansas City would capitalize like the Steelers of the early 70s would, by running the football down their opponent's throat. Rookie running back Joe Delaney gives the Chiefs speed the likes of which they haven't seen since the glory days of Mike Garrett. But the real workhorse on the drive was veteran Ted McKnight, number 22. On his 6th straight carry, McKnight slashed in from 3 yards out. From an end zone angle, we can see that the score was made possible because Jack Lambert simply could not get down the line of scrimmage in time to intercept McKnight at the goal line. McKnight's touchdown run once again put the Chiefs on top. It was time for celebration for Kansas City and a time for realization for Mr. Lambert. Perhaps he realized that the Chiefs were playing the exact brand of football that made his Steelers the team of the decade. That winning formula, a blend of intimidating defense and a tough running game. He wondered also, could these bold Chiefs keep it up for another quarter? With just under 14 minutes remaining in Pittsburgh's 1981 season opener, Franco Harris prepared himself for the inevitable Steeler comeback. It all began according to plan with a patented Pittsburgh inside track. Greg Hawthorne achieved a quick first down, and then Pittsburgh unveiled yet another means of advance. Terry Bradshaw to Jim Smith. Suddenly, the Steeler juggernaut was halted when Gary Spaney, number 59, stripped Sidney Thornton of the ball. Pittsburgh once more got a taste of their own medicine. It was they who used to jar brains and force fumbles. Now they were the victims, and Kansas City was setting the tone on the field. The Chiefs had won 8 of their last 12 to end the '80 season, and apparently they had carried that momentum in 1981. But one thing is certain, you should never underestimate the men of steel. Number 89, Benny Cunningham, gave the Steelers a first down at the Chiefs' 41. Terry Bradshaw then brought the sky-high, starry-eyed Chiefs quickly down to earth. Speedy Jim Smith was brought down in the end zone 41 yards downfield. The Steelers had reasserted themselves. Three Rivers Stadium had become, in a matter of seconds, a nightmare for the Cinderella Chiefs. A repeat of Pittsburgh's moment of brilliance reveals that if you give Terry Bradshaw enough time to set up behind his powerful front wall and allow a swift receiver like reserve Jim Smith to get but a single step beyond your deep coverage, you might as well just set up for the extra point. Smith's catch gave Pittsburgh a 33-30 lead with just over 7 minutes left. At this juncture, the pride of Pittsburgh, those black-clad mighty Knights, were besting the young upstarts from Missouri. With 5 minutes left to play, the man with lead pipe arms, Mike Webster, ready to snap for a drive that would most assuredly run out the clock. Harris gobbled up precious time with a pair of first down runs. And then a strange aura seemed to shroud the Steeler huddle. What the mysterious presence was is unknown. To secure victory, all they had to do was run low-risk, time-consuming running plays. On just such a play, disaster struck the city of champions. Linebacker Frank Manu Maliuna forced a fumble. And outside linebacker Thomas Howard, number 52, picked up Pittsburgh's 8th turnover of the afternoon. And 65 yards later, the Kansas City Chiefs, the supreme underdogs, took a 37-33 lead in this zany 70-point shootout. Bradshaw refused to submit with just under 2 minutes left. Harris netted first down yardage, but Pittsburgh needed big chunks of yardage. Bradshaw took a big chance and paid a big price. Gary Barbaro, whose pass interference call helped the Steelers to score earlier, redeemed himself and salted away one of the craziest games ever in Three Rivers Stadium history. It was 9 years ago when Franco Harris's immaculate reception launched the Steelers into 8 straight playoff appearances. On this day, however, it was just such a play that may have marked the dawn of a true contender, the tough Kansas City Chiefs. All Benny Cunningham can do is to wonder what might have been. But for Kansas City, they can ponder their bright future. Theirs was a locker room of joy, for last season they had staggered out of the blocks by losing 4 straight. A year later, they had defeated an NFL dynasty in the fortress of their enemy. Head coach Marv Levy has guided the progress of his young defensive-minded club. In 1978, they were 4-12. In 1979, they were 7-9. In 1980, they reached 500. Who knows? In 1981, the Chiefs may be a great deal more than just the most improved team in the AFC. And perhaps they can march into more hostile stadiums and find that they might not be such bad places to hang their hats.